All right, so we're back here on the 24/7 Sports Social Distance, welcoming in USF head coach Jeff Scott. Jeff, thanks for coming on with us today.
Absolutely. Glad to be with you.
All right, so you're living that quarantine life. How are you and your family adjusting to being down in Tampa? You got any Netflix recommendations for us? How things going for you?
Yeah, considering the circumstances, everything's going well. I think my daughter is under the impression that the new job that I took in Tampa allows me to be home every day. So she thinks this job's a lot better than the one I had in Clemson, and that's probably been one of the silver linings in all this is just for the first time in a long time, I'm able to really spend some quality time here at home. And, especially with my daughter, she's at a great age, 4 years old. So, I'll come in here and work for a couple hours in the office and maybe take a 30-minute break and go up to her playroom, play with her, then come back in here and work. And that's been really nice. And to be honest, I haven't spent a lot of time on Netflix just because I have so much to do. I've probably spent 10 to 12 hours in front of this webcam, whether it's talking to our coaching staff, our players. I've been talking to the leaders at the university. I've been talking to the head of the fraternity and sororities at South Florida. I've been talking to our boosters and donors, and also some former players, and then people in the community. So I am able to get a lot done and really connect and communicate with a lot of different people. I knew that I'd be doing that this spring. I just didn't envision that it would be from a home office behind a webcam, but we're making the most of a challenging situation.
So let's talk about those challenges real quick. You're one of just very few head coaches who are first-time head coaches at a new school, so not an internal promotion. If I had gone back into around Christmas time and told you, all right, Jeff, you're not going to have your players on campus from basically March through, let's call it, probably May, right? You would have probably thought I was crazy, but what were some of the things that you would think, okay, we wouldn't be able to do this, but we maybe could do this, and would you have been right? What are some of the biggest challenges you've had, and what are some of the big wins you've had perhaps in overcoming those challenges?
Sure. Well, I think, number one, I knew that there was going to be some challenges in my first year as the head coach, but this is definitely not one that I saw coming. I expected us to have spring practice, with all of our players and a bunch of team meetings and position meetings. So it definitely has been a challenge, but I think you learn a lot about your team going through something like this. I've learned a lot about our coaching staff. Obviously, all of us just kind of getting together for the first time in January. But anytime you have a challenge like we have in front of us, I think you're able to see the people that are able to lead and really kind of take charge and take action. And that's really what I've seen. I've been really pleased with our coaching staff. We've got a good of a plan as we feel like we can have right now with these situations. We're communicating with our players every day from 10 to 11 a.m. Monday through Friday. We're having position meetings or a team meeting or offense and defensive install meetings. And so far I've been really pleased with the way that our guys have responded. I think not only were our coaches excited about spring practice, the players were excited because it was a fresh start for them, trying to earn an opportunity to, be out there with that first group. And so I know they had put in a lot of work over the last couple of months to get in a position physically to go out and compete this spring. So I know they're disappointed, but, I think the way that these guys have responded, has been really good. And then the last thing that I would say is, this has forced us to use some different technology than maybe we've used in the past. And, some of this stuff with the video conferencing, I plan to use once we get back to the normal rhythm. I plan to be able to use this, especially in recruiting, and then also anytime we need to have some good conversation with our players while they're away.
Now, Coach, without having spring practice, we always hear coaches say, hey, I don't watch any of the old film. Everybody has a clean slate. And to a certain extent, that has to be true. But without a spring practice to know your players' abilities, do you go back and watch the film just perhaps for with an eye for maybe what standout abilities some of your players have? Is it different than your original plan with that?
Yeah, right now I'm planning to keep our original plan, and really myself personally, I have not watched any video from the past just because I do believe in giving these guys a fresh start and a new beginning. Our coaching staff has already gone and watched a lot of video from the past year, really just to learn more about the personnel that we have and kind of how they fit our new offense and defensive schemes. But I'm expecting us to have some version of practice before we get out there and play, whether that be a mini camp in June or July, or even a fall camp in August. So right now I'm kind of holding to that and really want to give these guys, their first opportunity to show us what they can do out there on our practice fields here in Tampa.
Jeff, you were a big part of building the Clemson dynasty, along with obviously Dabo and Coach Venables. And then what are some elements of what y'all had success with at Clemson that you want to bring to USF? And then on the flip side, not as a criticism of Clemson, but what's something you want to do differently to kind of put your own stamp on the USF program?
Yeah, well, I've definitely been very fortunate to be with Coach Sweeney for the last 12 years. I mean, I was there as a graduate assistant on October 13th, 2008, when he took over as the interim head coach. And not many people really gave him a chance, even at Clemson, to get the head job. And then to go from that to now where Clemson is, it's been an incredible journey. And, the biggest things that I take away is, just the importance of having the culture that you want within your program. It's not just about, bringing in a great coach that knows X's and O's. It's about the man that you're bringing in. And, I think the chemistry that we had at Clemson within our coaching staff was very unique, very, very little turnover. I think that was a big reason for our success. And then, also the type of young men that we brought into the program. I mean, Coach Sweeney, he would turn down 5-star guys left and right if he did not feel that they fit the culture that we wanted within our program, if he didn't feel that they were going to fit in our locker room. I mean, those were things that were very important. And I think for me, I learned a lot about that. And really, you've heard the saying that, championship culture is not really tacked on the way to the victory stage, right? It's something that happens way before you become champions. And so that's probably the biggest things that I've taken away from the program, is really kind of the behind the scenes and the foundation that really we built it on. And then, the thing, obviously, my goal is not to come to Tampa and try to turn it into Clemson. I think each university is different. The environment and the setting is different. Obviously, Clemson's a small college town, and Tampa is a great big city and incredible community. So for me, I think part of the culture and the philosophy, the foundation is going to be very similar, but maybe our day-to-day interaction, like for one example, I know we did not take one transfer at Clemson in 12 years. And, for where we are and in the conference that we're in, I probably am going to look to bring in, I already have brought in a couple transfers to be able to help us improve our team and a few needs that we have for next year. So, that's just one example of a few of the small things. But by and large, I think, I've been fortunate to see a program go from maybe being average and inconsistent to being a championship program. And, I think a lot of that has to do with the type of people that you're bringing into your program, actually.
Absolutely. I know you have extensive experience recruiting the Tampa area. How much do you think that'll help you in keeping the right players home at Tampa? Everybody always talks about if USF could just keep the Tampa talent home. It's not realistic to keep all the 4 and 5 stars at home, but you have to get the right ones that fit your program. How much do you think those ingrained relationships will help you?
Well, I think really the relationships with the high school coaches, and it's not just relationships from recruiting guys. It's actually, signing players from this area that came up to Clemson. I coached, 3 or 4 wide receivers from this area, and for their players to come up and have a great experience and go home back to their high school and, share that experience with their high school coaches. I think there's some trust and really deep roots that I'm able to have with a lot of the coaches in this area. And also, I think just the reputation of how we did, how we ran our program at Clemson, and just being genuine people that were honest and transparent, and, had great relationships with our players, number one, and then great relationships with the coaches. I think that'll help. And there's no question. I mean, there's 121 high schools within 1 hour of our campus. And so, what we did as a staff, we took those 121 schools in this area. We divided it up by the 10 coaches. And so every coach has at least 12 schools right here in this area. And then we took the remaining part of Florida and divided that up by 10 more recruiting areas. So each coach really has 2 areas in this state. And, I feel for us to have the success that we're going to have here, we got to do a great job right here around this Bay Area and in our remaining Florida territory.
Absolutely. Real quickly before we get to the final one, you mentioned several recruits that you had out of the Tampa area. Were you surprised at how quickly Deon Cain became a refined receiver? Obviously, he was a high school quarterback. Y'all identified him early in the process as somebody who could be that next level receiver, but he was pretty good pretty quickly there after not playing much receiver at the high school level.
Yeah, I would probably say about 40% of the receivers that I signed at Clemson over the, those 10 years, they played another position. Ray McLeod played running back in high school. Deon Cain was a quarterback in high school. Sammy Watkins played all over the place. So for me, I think, a big thing when you see a guy playing quarterback in high school, that means that, that high school coach and that team feels like he's one of the best athletes and they want to get the ball in his hands. And I actually think there's a, Darian Kendrick, another receiver that we had at Clemson, played quarterback at high school in South Point High School in Rock Hill. And I think for a receiver, when you play the quarterback position, I think that really helps you when you move over to wideout because you understand, the big picture of the pass plays, how everything works. But yeah, we were able to have Deon Cain in our football camp and be able to do some drills with him and see that he was a natural receiver. And, he did a great job for us in his time at Clemson.
All right. We'll get you out of here on this one. You were the holder at Clemson for 3 or 4 years, I think it was?
Yeah.
Did you ever run any fakes? Did you ever get to throw any passes there? How hard were you lobbying to chuck the ball around a little bit on those fake field goals?
That was many, many years ago. Some of my players at Clemson found a couple highlights of my fake field goals. So during my 3 years holding at Clemson, we ran 6 fake field goals. 4 of them were successful. There were 3 first downs and actually 1 touchdown. The unique part of that is the 1 touchdown that I did score was about a 21-yard run off of an option with the kicker. And it was actually against Central Florida, our rival. So maybe that was a little sign there of what was to come, a few years later. But I did really want to throw a pass. And we had one game against Georgia Tech that we had a little kind of play where we were hiding somebody out over near the sideline. And I was going to pick it up and throw it. And then Coach Tommy Bowden, our head coach at the time, asked the officials about it before the game, just kind of mentioned it to them, and they shot it down. And I was disappointed the entire game because I didn't get to throw that touchdown pass being a high school quarterback. But, yeah, that was definitely a fun experience and one that I know my players have kind of given me a hard time about here over the last few years.
Jeff, thanks for coming on the 24/7 Sports Social Distance Show. Really appreciate the time, and good luck this season in Tampa. Whenever you do get your guys back, I know it'll be fun to watch.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Great being with you.